This is a short video lecture talking about Chapter 5, which deals with analyzing your audience. The number one thing you have to remember is your speech is for your audience. You need to take your audience into consideration at every stage of the speech-making process. So when you're designing your speech, there's a couple things you need to remember, which is being audience-centered. Okay? So that means everything you're doing, from visual aids to vocabulary to main points, even topics, where you stand, how you show your visual element, is determined by your audience. You have to ask these questions: to whom am I speaking? What do I want my audience to know? And how can I effectively create or compose my speech to accomplish those goals? Good speakers understand the psychology of audiences. And you have to remember that your audience is very egocentric. That means that they're very self-centered. We think about ourselves first, what we're interested in, what affects us personally. So in essence, when you speak, you have to put it in their backyard or closer to their center. And you have to make them realize why this information is good for them, necessary for them, and to help them understand why they should listen and keep their attention. Another thing that you need to create is identification. Identification means that you're creating a bond between you and your audience. Your audience wants to connect with you, but also they want to connect with your speech. So give them a reason to connect. All right. So for us to be audience-centered, there are ways that we can conduct an audience analysis. This will be a discussion question on exam 1. One thing that we can do is look at a demographic analysis. A demographic is anything that puts someone in a statistical category, like age, race, ethnic background, zip code, area code, anything that puts someone in a category. If you know these categories, then that will allow you to help your audience identify, because you're trying to find information that fits down that lane. So if you had a group in your audience that's between 18 and 25, any statistics that you bring up during your presentation should fit within that demographic. Also, we can do what's called a situational analysis. That's considering the size of the audience, also the physical setting, the room conditions. All of those need to be taken in consideration, because that changes what you do. That changes how you present, where you stand. Do you need audio to be able to be heard? All of those different situations have to be evaluated so that you can maximize the particular situation to your advantage. Lastly, you can do a psychological analysis. Okay, this is their disposition and attitude toward the topic. You can assess your audience's interests, their knowledge of the topic, what do they want to know, the disposition or their attitude toward the speaker. Do they like you? Do they not? Are they indifferent? Or the disposition toward the occasion. What do they expect in this particular occasion? But also their disposition toward the topic. The audience's expectation about the link and the content of the speech can be evaluated before you go. And when you gain such information, you can gain information through interviews, questionnaires. You can use all of this information to tailor your speech, and that's your job. But why does all this matter? It matters because you need to adapt to the audience. Remember, the speech is for them. Keep your audience in mind in everything that you're doing in your speech. You need to keep them, in the forefront of your mind throughout the preparation process. Since this will be a discussion question on exam 1, what you need to make sure that you do is read pages 93 to 102 in your textbook. This gives a little bit more discussion and also provides you some examples that would be necessary for you to use to discuss it on exam 1. All right. The other part of Chapter 5 talked about selecting a topic and identifying your purpose. Topic selection is the key to great speech making. Also, your topic should have a narrow focus and not too broad. Also, topic selection is one of the first steps that you employ when designing a speech. All right, so we have to identify our general purpose, okay? There's two general purpose, usually standard for classroom speeches. That's to inform and to persuade. But Aristotle says that there's three reasons why people speak in public: to persuade, to perform, to inform, and to entertain. And when we think about those goals are distinctly different. To inform is to teach, to raise awareness, where persuade, I'm here to influence and change, and to entertain can be related to our commemorative speech, which is a special occasion speech geared toward honoring and praising a person or event. Once you decide your general purpose, then you can identify your specific purpose. Your book calls this your exact purpose, and you can find information about your specific purpose on page 118. This indicates precisely what the speaker wants the audience to know after the speech is over. It should focus clearly on identified aspect of the topic, and it should be expressed in a single infinitive phrase. All right, after you've selected a topic, you've decided your general lane, you've decided specifically what you're going to talk about, then from your research, you should be developing your central idea or your thesis statement, okay? So with that, remember with the thesis is it refines and sharpens the specific purpose statement, and it is in essence the thing or the nugget. It is the takeaway. It is what your audience will remember after the speech is over, and it should have what's called a residual effect. That means it should be left over, okay? This is why you state your thesis in the introduction. You expand your thesis by providing details and supporting material in the body, and that is why you repeat the thesis in the conclusion. All right, remember, your thesis is one complete sentence that sums up your entire speech and your main points, okay? Sometimes a thesis statement is called a central idea, but we've got to remember that it needs to be well worded. It should be expressed in a full, complete sentence. It should not be in the form of the question. It should avoid figurative language. It should not be vague. It should not be a fragment, and it should not be two sentences. All right, so this ends the lecture notes on Chapter 5, which talked about audience analysis and topic selection.